Shabbat Shalom, everyone. All right, I have a couple of announcements. And by a couple, I don't mean literally two, but hopefully not too many announcements. First of all, so excited for our Pride storytelling to be in person again tonight. I agree. And I know we have folks who are going to be joining us virtually as well, which is also a gift that we can spread our stories and our celebration and our pride and our love and our support and our strength far and wide. So tonight's storytellers, we'll have Nicola Sorelli, we'll have Leah Newman, and Levi Greenberg-Creel, and Esty Kilmer. So very excited to be sharing their reflections a little bit later. I'll close with a blessing that comes from this beautiful book, Mishkan Ga'ava, Where Pride Dwells, a celebration of LGBTQ Jewish life and ritual, edited by Rabbi Denise Eger. Just lots of prayers, lots of blessings, and a powerful reminder to many of us that the language we use is the Hebrew we use. It is gendered and it is old. And the rituals we have, they are old too. And there is so much opportunity for us to be innovative, to be creative, to learn, to grow, and to stretch our tradition and our communities and our practices and our rituals to make room for the LGBTQ plus community in ways that nobody used to be thinking of, and we get that opportunity to do so. So here's our closing blessing, a blessing for pride. Makor HaChaim, source of life, you have blessed each of us with your spirit. In your wisdom, you have made each of us a unique treasure. Ma'ayan Chayenu, wellspring of our lives, cause us to flow with courage, with strength and compassion to live our stories openly, proudly, and joyfully. Presence of love, you embrace us with your love. May we embrace ourselves, our partners, our friends, our children, our dear ones, with the power of your Ahava Rabbah, your unending and boundless love. Ruach HaShalom, spirit of peace and wholeness, open our eyes to the gifts and blessings we offer and receive from each other. Open our hearts to welcome each other fully and truly. Open our hands to embrace, to support, to lift each other with joy, with song, and with deep friendship. Today, as we celebrate renewal, pride, and community, let us walk together with strength, compassion, and love. Ki imcha mekor chayim b'orcha nira'or. For you are the source of life, and in your light we are bathed in light, and through us is radiated your light. Shabbat Shalom.
Amen. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.
First up, I want to invite Nicholas Lassarelli to share some reflections for us. Thank you.
Gay. Gay, 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 gay. There, I said it. Is everyone okay? Are we all right? Yeah. Okay, of course we are. This is IKAR, where we strive to recognize the dignity of our trans and queer community members. And it's easy for me to say gay here, but in many places it isn't easy to say gay. I'm from Santa Clarita, which is a historically, politically, and religiously conservative city. There, like in many places in the United States, it isn't so easy to say gay. I know many people who grew up hearing, don't talk about it. Don't even say the word gay in this household. And there are many people who still grow up that way. So, story time. In high school, as a closeted teenager, when I saw that the Gay and Lesbian Association for Student Support, GLASS, which is a mouthful, which was formerly called the AIDS Awareness Club in the 90s, which there's a lot to unpack there. When I found that it was going to become leaderless and dissolve, I knew I couldn't let that happen, right? So I became president of the club, and I went through all of the appropriate channels to change the name from the unrecognizable GLASS to the more recognizable GSA, the Gay Straight Alliance, which I think a lot of us are familiar with here, right? Because I'd heard so many people say, wow, I didn't even know a club like that existed on campus. And I knew that if they had just known, if we had a more recognizable name, that more people would be able to come to the club and seek out what the club had to offer and have a space to be themselves and explore what that even means. So I was met with a lot of pushback. Our weekly announcements were either omitted or altered. Teachers and students tore down our flyers, and some teachers refused to even let us put up flyers. And I was even threatened with suspension by the faculty advisor of the Associated Student Body, which was wild. He sent, I'm not gonna use any names, but it was a wild experience. He sent 2 students to pull me out of math class and say, if you don't change the name from GSA back to Glass, we're gonna suspend you, right? And I don't know where I got the chutzpah as a closeted teenager at this time, but it's like when you're young, you feel like what's right and wrong, and sometimes you're just willing to risk more. So I told these students that came to pull me out of class, I said, like, you can't do this. We went through all the correct avenues of changing the name of the constitution of the club, and our club exists because of the same law that allows the Bible Club to exist on this campus. So you tell him he can't do this. Thank you very much. Goodbye. So I then took it to the principal, and I told him, I was like, look, if you don't make this right, I'm going to take this to the local news. And there was nothing that this principal was afraid of more than bad press, right? So he folded. We won, which was great. Yeah, so yeah, I did all this, but it did come at a personal cost, because throughout this process, I was outed to my mom. I was met with a lot of like harassment and bullying, and but in the end, it was yeah. And then there was this crazy thing I learned about recently. Apparently, there was this like plot by the football team, and it sounds super cliche, to attack me like brutally, and it was thwarted by a football player who like brought it up to his coach, and they had a whole sort of sit down about it. And this whole thing, that which just seems so simple, to change the name from Glass to GSA, actually sent ripples through the school, right? Because they were afraid of the language. They're afraid of people knowing that there was a club, that there was a gay and lesbian club, a queer club on campus. But despite all that, in the end, it was worth it, because the club still exists. I reached out to, I pulled up the website of Hart High School, which is where I went, and I found that the GSA was still there. And as I said before, in the 90s, it was called the AIDS Awareness Club. Then it became GLASS, the Gay and Lesbian Association for Student Support. And then GSA, I know it's a lot, GSA, the Gay Straight Alliance. But then some other students took it upon themselves to give the name and give the club a new name, which was still GSA. And they called it now the Gender Sexuality Alliance, which I think is so, I just think it's so beautiful and brilliant and so much more inclusive. And it's just so inspiring to see the club grow and change and become more of a space where people can really step into their truth, So why am I telling you all this? Well, this Pride Shabbat, so that part's a little obvious. But undoubtedly, there were students in every iteration of this club who didn't know it existed because the language was unclear and the social and political climate made it too risky to get involved. And there were students who didn't have access to this space in a city that wanted them to simply sit down and shut up at the time, which caused a lot of harm. And I started out this with saying gay, gay, gay. Are we okay? And I've actually heard plenty of people in our kind of LA bubble and beyond say, well, it's easier to be queer, trans, ace, lesbian, and so on these days. What's the big deal? But the fact of the matter is that the world seeming to get queerer is just an illusion, because we've always been here. It's always been this queer, but with tireless work by queer activists and allies, more people have been able to come out and step into their truths. And like Rabbi Tzadok touched on earlier, progress isn't just an point A to point B to point C to point D kind of thing. We don't just arrive from point A to point D and we're like, great, we did it. Things can always go backwards. And there may come a day where I get up here and I can't say gay, I can't say trans, I can't say bi, but I do want to fight like hell to make sure that we can always stand up and speak our truth. And I want us to realize that it doesn't just get better, right? I don't know if you're all familiar with the It Gets Better campaign, which I think was well-intentioned, but there's something to it where it's like, don't worry, I know it's bad now, but it's just gonna get better. And it's like, you know what? It doesn't just get better. It gets better when we make it better, right? And so I was thinking today about the Haftarah that we'll hear tomorrow from Zechariah, from Zechariah. where he has this vision of the golden menorah and these two olive trees. And my teacher, Dr. Habibi, told us in one of our classes that it's supposed to represent Israel and Judah and their sort of unification in Zechariah's vision, right? So with that in mind, I was thinking I really want us all to be part of this ongoing vision put into action, in which we can restoratively stand side by side like these two olive trees in our God-given holiness with dignity and joy. And also just remember that the struggle has always been work and it will continue to be work. But as long as we're doing it together, we can really make this holy work happen. So I want to thank you all for this opportunity to speak, and happy Pride and Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, thank you. Happy Pride. Amen, amen. All right, I want to call up Leah Newman to share some reflections for us this evening.
So I'm trying something that's like new and a challenge for me. I wrote a first draft of this, but I'm an actor and I've done about 7 years of improv, so I figured I would just like improvise this a little bit. So if I go off the rails, blame the groundlings. So about last month I was in Berlin after a 2-week trip to Europe. And as some of you may know, Berlin is like the queerest city on the planet. And that's sort of where I embraced that label for the first time. But while I was there, I went to the Holocaust Memorial, of course, and I just started weeping. Like, it was the first time where I, obviously growing up Jewish, that was constantly on our minds, but now there was the confluence of being Jewish and queer. And so it just really hit me that that's not talked about a lot, the queer aspect of the Holocaust. Kind of scared me. So it brought me back to the kind of the relationship, the two communities. Like, the queer community is actively traumatized, and the Jewish community is doing a lot better, but very historically traumatized. And as a result of that, the Jewish community has developed these coping strategies that, intergenerational trauma has caused a sense of strategies that I think have no longer served the community. The biggest one being, and I didn't actually realize I was trans until 2 years ago, but the amount of sameness that we are forced to like exist in the Jewish community is honestly tragic. To be different is to not be okay, unfortunately. And it's getting better, but it's a lot more talk than action. So I was like very involved growing up in the Jewish community. I was president of my synagogue. I was a founding father of Alpha Epsilon Pi fraternity. I really want to go to a convention and they'll be like, who is this chick here? But once I accepted being different, there's not a clear path for me here. Not here literally, but the greater Jewish community at large. And so I've done a lot of work on myself. I will proudly say that, to break down who I am, what makes me special, and to find a place for me. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about vulnerability and how the path to connection is by being vulnerable, by being open, by sharing without a script. And it's led me to some really amazing, interesting places. Like, I was at a Shavuot event and I like met someone there. Yes, please. And it's like going really well. And so I just challenge everybody. It's very new and but like all same-sex female couples going very fast. So groundling is keeping me off track right now. I was gonna say, oh, yes. So the work that I've done to discover my vulnerability, to actually be vulnerable with another person, we cried together on a second date. Like, come on. Like, it's very real and very raw. And it's, I think, important that all of us take a look in the mirror and walk into our vulnerability to have deeper connections that aren't based on sameness, but are unique differences that will bring us all together and allow people who are not like us, you know, ethnic, racial, gender, sexuality minorities to feel welcome in Jewish spaces. So thank you, everybody, and I appreciate your time. And Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you so much, Leah. And here's hoping everything continues to go in beautiful and connected ways, as it should. All right, well, part of what I love about this is thinking about our community. And we've been doing this storytelling for many, many years. And if you're somebody in the community who's like, I would love to do this next year in the future, or don't know what it means because I don't know what your prompt is, because clearly there's not a specific prompt, but just come and talk to me. You know, we always happy to get to hear from people, including for our second time in our storytelling, the years that we've been doing this, the teen kid of in an LGBTQ family. So I'm going to invite up Levi Greenberg Creel to be our next speaker.
Okay. So there's a frame picture hanging on our wall of a handmade sign that says, "Let me marry the woman I love." My mom carried this sign in a march 14 years ago. 2004, my mom's had their non-legal marriage on May 16th, 2004, the day before Massachusetts became the first state to start issuing marriage license to same-sex couples. 2008, 3 days before I was born, gay marriage became legal in California. And they started giving out marriage license to gay couples. Actually, today's the anniversary, June 17th, 14 years ago. So if you want to know how much time has passed since gay marriage has been legal in California, you're looking at it. 2013 was one of the most impactful years in my family's history. A week or so after my little brother Milo was born, gay marriage became legal in the entire country. That was 9 years ago. The way these two amazing events overlap show that the gay rights timeline is the timeline of my family. My whole life, gay marriage has been legal, and I haven't experienced any extreme discrimination, but lately these rights seem they can be rolled back. Listen to what I read from the Times Magazine. Okay. In the past 2 years, conservative state lawmakers have introduced a wave of anti-LGBTQ legislation, including roughly 240 anti-LGBTQ bills in 2022 alone. I know from my parents that even to this day, every time they hold hands in the street, they have to think first. They filter everything they do in public through the lens of, am I safe? The idea of rolling back any rights doesn't just affect people like my mom's, it affects people like their family, it affects people like me. I know that there are other places in the world where family of mine would not be possible. I hope and pray that there are other families that can live in the world of peace and with a sense of belonging and no hatred. Thank you.
Thank you, Levi. Thank you. Sometimes it takes a little bit more rabbinic nudging to get someone to agree to do it. But so grateful that you shared. I didn't mean Levi, I meant some of the other speakers too. It's pretty much everybody. Thank you. And for our fourth and last speaker for today, I want to invite up Esty Kilmer.
I'm hammered. Okay, eggs, butter, cream, honey. That's not the. Okay. For real. I am brought to tears this Shabbat as I am at every IKAR service, which I am lucky enough to attend with my wife and 2 beautiful children. I'm probably gonna start crying, but that's the fireball talking. It still feels very much surreal to enter this welcoming and loving space and find this incredible intersection between my Jewish self and my gay self, a crossroads I never imagined would be possible. Growing up in LA, I was raised by Israeli immigrants who, despite having never observed a Shabbat in their lives, sent my brother and me to an Orthodox Jewish day and high school because that's real Judaism. You know the type, Shabbat dinner is followed by a movie, Saturday means a day spent at the mall, but you can bet your shmura matzah that twice a year we're going to shul and it will be an Orthodox one. Never mind that my uncle and I had this awesome family tradition of breaking our Yom Kippur fast at Pink's Hot Dogs. It was great, seriously. Still, I felt an immensely strong connection to my Jewish self, although I was in constant conflict with both my gay and secular selves. For years, I tried with all my might to squash those 2 nagging, disobedient parts until finally, one brave day, I came out to my traditional Jewish mother, whose shock confirmed that denial is not only a river in Egypt. Adding to the difficulty of coming out in and of itself was my certainty of the fact that my Jewish life, as I had known it, would be over. Who had ever heard of a traditional, non-practicing Orthodox lesbian? Turns out lots of people. Enter IKAR. My public radio nerdism really paid off for me about 4 years ago when I heard Rabbi Brau speak on, I don't remember if it was KPCC or the other one. And my life basically changed forever. I immediately looked up IKAR online, emailed Rabbi Brous directly, gave her my quick spiel, and was directed to Beth for our first of many bite-sized Shabbats, where I spent almost the entire time in tears. I could not believe that a space like this existed. A space where all types of people could come together and celebrate the beauty of Judaism in a way that felt familiar to me, but with a warmth and level of acceptance I'd never seen before. It's basically an entire community of traditional non-practicing Orthodox lesbians. I really found my spiritual home. Through this amazing community, my wife and I have made lifelong friends. And our children have attended preschool. We have prayed and played and have seen a swath of people participating in Judaism in ways that have made me feel so proud. I've said this many times before, and I'll say it again now. IKAR saved my Judaism, and I feel blessed to be part of this incredible movement towards greater love and acceptance for all. Thank you, L'chaim, and Shabbat Shalom.
That to the non-practicing Orthodox, lesbian, traditional, secular, to all of it, to all of you. Tomorrow we're going to read from Parshat Bahalotcha, and it starts with this instruction to Aaron, this instruction of lighting the menorah in the temple. Bahalotcha et hanerot. When you, it's not when you light. It's not when you bahadlikha. It's bahalotcha, when you lift up the lights, the flames. And Rashi, famous traditional commentary, Orthodox, lesbian, French. No, I'm just kidding. He says that they had to light them until the point that those flames could lift themselves. You had to light them until the flames could lift themselves. And I think what a beautiful idea about the way that people impact our lives. The people who give us light and they keep giving us light, or they give us light in a way that allows us to find our own light, to let that light lift and let that light shine. To our speakers tonight, to Nick, to Leah, to Levi, and to Esty, thank you for shining your light just a little bit more tonight for us and for all the people who needed to hear your words and needed to hear your stories. And with gratitude to all those who have come through my life and helped my light lift and glow on its own, and for all of you to just take a moment and to think and to offer love and send gratitude across the waves, across time, across space, to some of those folks who have done that for you. I pray that as we close this part of our evening, though I wish we could keep going. I pray that everyone finds the light that you need and also recognizes the power that you have to be that lighter for others, and to allow all of us to stand in strength and in glory and in beauty. Shabbat Shalom. Thanks, everybody.